Hello, hope you're doing great. This is David and this is Batman, and I am Mariapani Rajan, your friendly software engineer. And in this video, we're going to talk about inheritance in C++. So, and obviously David and Batman are going to help us talk about inheritance. All right. So in the previous video, we already discussed about what a class is and how we can make use of a class to create objects. All right. Now, as an extension to that, right? One cool feature that classes enable us to have is something called inheritance. So what does that mean? So inheritance, obviously, just as how we use the word, just as how we mean the word inheritance in our English, language, inheritance is, it means literally to inherit something from a predecessor or from a parent. So that's what inheritance means, right? Now that same thing applies in the world of object oriented programming as well. So we can, just as we saw in the previous session, we can now create a class, right? And thereby from a class we can create these objects. Now inheritance enables us to create some kind of a relationship between two objects, right? So that's what inheritance allows us to create. So in this video we're going to see we're going to create a couple of objects. Basically we're going to create stuffed toys, just as how I have these two stuffed toys. We're going to create them, and we're going to see how we can map relationships among them. Okay, so before we go into code, let's just talk about the stuffed dolls in the room, right? So we have two dolls with us right now, right? We have this Batman stuffed toy, right? It's just a doll, right? We can call it doll or a toy, or we will call it a doll. We have a Batman stuffed doll, and we have a regular Joe. I mean, we'll call him David. So at least my son calls him David. He's again a stuffed doll. So we have David and we have Batman. Both are stuffed dolls, right? So you can say that both of them belong to the class stuffed doll, right? Because they are stuffed dolls, right? Now, but then you can see that both of them, they do have a bunch of properties which are similar, right? Because both of them are stuffed dolls. They have some kind of a stuffing inside of them. It could be cotton or wool or whatnot. So they have some kind of a stuffing inside. So that's the reason they are squishy and they're soft, right? So both the dolls are soft. So they have some kind of a stuffing. So that's the primary property of being a stuffed doll. You need to have stuffing, right? So you have the stuffings, right? So the stuffing material or whatever. So that's a property, the stuffing material. And then to cover up the stuffing, right? So to give it some kind of a shape, you have some kind of a material, right? So in this case, like let's say if you take David, so he has some kind of a skin. I mean, like it's basically a cloth. He has a cloth material which is acting as its skin, right? So we can maybe call him, and it's also textured. So he's got this green color for his leg, and it's got the skin color for his face, and it even has the eyes and like a mouth and all those things. So he has got this skin, cloth material, right? So skin cloth textured material, right? So that's what. So that's something that is covering up the stuffings and making him, giving him some kind of a definition, some kind of a shape. So the same is available for Batman. So even for Batman, you can see that Batman also, inside he has some stuffing, but then he's covered up by means of this, skin, cloth skin material, right? Cloth skin material. What do we call it? We'll call it skin cloth material or whatever. We'll just call it whatever we want. Okay, so we just call it skin cloth textured material, right? So this is textured again. So it's just a single cloth that has been stitched together, right? So it's a, so we can consider that to be own property. So we have the skin cloth textured material and then the stuffing. So those two things are common for both David and Batman, right? So that's cool. Now then, in addition to that, David has got some distinctive properties that Batman does not have, and Batman stuffed doll has got some distinctive properties that David does not have. So let's define them as well, right? So you can see that David has got this like nice hair, right? So he's got this hair, which is again cloth, right? It's cloth material, and using cloth material, David has got hair, whereas Batman does not have hair. Instead, he's got this mask, right? So he's got this mask with this bat ears and whatnot, right? So he's got a mask, whereas this guy has got a hair. And then you can see that Batman has got a nice cape, right? He's got a long like nice big cape, superhero cape, whereas David does not have that cape. Instead, he's got this like nice like a pant material. He's got a pant and he's got a shirt, right? So he's wearing a pant and a shirt on top of the skin textured material. So this is all pretty cool, right? So we can see that yes, both of them are stuffed dolls, and both have some properties which are common, like because being a stuffed doll, they need to have some kind of a stuffing and material, and then they need to have a skin cloth textured material. Those are common. And obviously they also have dimensions, and being like a humanoid stuffed doll, they do have two legs and two hands. So those things are common, right? And they have some dimensions. So this is it's like obviously Batman is much more taller than David. So those are common, right, for a stuffed doll. But then you have these additional properties which make each of these objects unique, right? So both the David stuffed doll and Batman stuffed doll belong to the class stuffed doll, right? So that's established. But then each so you can in a way say that both David stuffed doll and Batman stuffed doll is a stuffed doll, right? So that's the relationship. So both of them is a stuffed doll, like is a relation. So that's a keyword, okay? So when you're saying both of them have a single parent, what do we mean is both of them is a stuffed doll, right? So their parent is a stuffed doll, but then they do have like a bunch of unique properties as well, right? So this is the context, okay? This is the relationship that we're going to create digitally right now. And let's see it's going to be interesting, and let's see how we can map out or create basically a digital version of David stuffed doll and digital version of our Batman stuffed doll in code. Okay, so so let's get started. In code we can see okay, so we're just starting out with a blank project, and let's first define a stuffed doll class, right? So we'll just create a class called stuffed doll. So this is something that we we already saw how to create a class, right, in a previous session. So stuffed doll, right? Okay, so and in this stuffed doll, let's just define the properties which are common to both Batman and David. Basically, like properties which define a stuffed doll, right? Like we're not going to go into specifics of a Batman or a David toy or whatever stuffed doll. We just want to say generically what does it mean to be a stuffed doll, right? Like let's just put on the persona of a stuffed doll. What does it mean when we say something is a stuffed doll? So obviously if it's a stuffed doll, it needs to have stuffings, right? So let's just maybe use a string to define that. So we'll just have a string that says stuffings, right? Stuffing material, right? So the stuffing material could either be wool, cotton, old socks. It could be anything, right? You just need something to fill in that material, right? Like you need to make it squishy and soft. So it could be anything. So yeah, so stuffing material is something. It's a property that is important for a stuffed doll. And then like we'll have so we also talked about the skin material, right? So we have the skin cloth textured material. Okay, it's a mouthful variable name, but like let's just make it descriptive, right? So we also have our skin cloth textured material, right? So that's another property, right? So that's these things differentiate. That's another property of a stuffed doll. Yeah, so we have a stuffing material, and then we have the skin cloth textured material. Actually, with these two things itself, you can have a stuffed doll, right? Like that's it. So you can have you can even, there are these stuffed pillows and stuffed like even some kind of toys and all those things, right? So you can make whatever shape you want out of them, and that's it. This is stuffed doll, right? So you just need a material and then a skin cloth textured material. That's it. With these two things you can pretty much create a stuffed doll. And obviously, yeah, you need to have the dimensions, right? So let's just maybe have use a float data type to store maybe the height of the stuffed doll. Okay, yeah, obviously there is width and all these other dimensions that are there, like especially this being a humanoid stuffed doll. We are like, but here we are defining a generic stuffed doll. It's not even a humanoid stuffed doll. Actually, if you want, you can create a humanoid stuffed doll, because in this instance we are just talking with humanoids, right? So both of them look like a human, right? So they have two legs and two hands. So yeah, so like in that way you can actually define that as well, but we'll just keep it simple for now. We'll just call them stuffed dolls. Okay. So yeah, like they have these like the hand height, leg height, then the tummy's width. So all those properties, they're common to both stuffed dolls, right? So both, especially humanoid stuffed dolls. So you can define them, but we'll just keep it simple. So we'll just say stuffed dolls, and they will a stuffed doll is something that will have a stuffing material, and it'll have a skin cloth textured material. Okay, we will even remove the height for now. Yeah, we talked about it, like we can have dimensions and all those things. That it's up to you to even go deeper, but just to give that we're just like in this video we'll just concentrate on how inheritance works, right? So we're just using these as a silly examples, but just to make a point. All right, so we have the stuffed doll, and it's got the stuffing material and then skin cloth textured material. Okay, so these two properties are crucial, and that's what make a stuffed doll. Okay, cool. Now the thing is, there are certain properties which are, as we already mentioned, unique to Batman, which are not present in David, right? And there are certain things that are unique to David that are not present in Batman. We can't define them in a stuffed doll, right? Like, because stuffed doll is the generic. So here we are defining what a stuffed doll is. We're not defining what a David stuffed doll is, or a Batman stuffed doll is, right? So now. But we need a place to define those properties, because these things have gotten manifested, right? You have created, there's somebody who has created this, right? There's an object here, so that means this object got created. It is a stuffed doll, but it's got some additional unique properties to this, right? So that means we need to have another class, right, which can manifest them, which can like create instances of these, a David stuffed doll or a Batman stuffed doll, right? So let's do that now. Let's create another class right now called, we'll call it Batman. First we'll just create Batman. So Batman. Okay, and now when we create, I mean, like, this is what we know to do now, right? Like, we know how to create a class. So let me just bring Batman here. So okay, so we have Batman, and now Batman again has got stuffing material, and he also has the skin cloth textured material, right? So those two properties Batman also has. Now, if we don't have this inheritance feature, right? Like what we would have to do, we would have to like literally copy these two properties for Batman, right? So Batman also has those two properties, and in addition to those two properties, what he has a cape, right? So he has got like a cape. You need maybe a cape material or cape dimensions or whatever, right? So we just call it cape material. So in this case, it's just satin kind of a cloth. So it's a cloth material. So we'll just have another properties for Batman. This is specific to Batman, and we'll say it is we'll just call it string, cape string, and he's got a cape, right? So it's got a cape, and in addition to that, he even has a belt. You can see, right? This is a separate material that they have. It's not part of the skin material. It's a separate belt he has, right? So he has got like a belt. Yeah, so it's again a textured belt, right? So belt, cloth textured material. So it's again a cloth textured material. Now the thing is, there's some this, both the skin and the belt, right? Like they are all of the type cloth textured material. Maybe we can create a class of its own and do some inheritance. So that's something that if you want, you can do it. But like in this case, we'll just keep it simple. So here you can see that the belt is also it's again a cloth. It's a cloth material, and it's textured, right? So it's a belt cloth textured material, and we have the cape material. Maybe you can just say cape color, cape color. Yeah, that's a property. Yeah, obviously you can have cape material as well, but just for now we'll just say cape color. So maybe this Batman has got the cape color of black. We can have another Batman with a cape color which is something else, like gray or whatever, gray or green. Green. Yeah, anyway, so whatever color you can set it there. It's a property, right? We need to define. Anyway, so you have a cape color and you have the belt, and what else? It's got a mask, right? So it's got a Batman has a mask, right? So that's important to Batman to keep his secret identity. So we have a mask, right? It's a bat mask. I think it's obvious that a Batman's mask is bat mask. So we just keep it mask. We just call it mask. Mask color. Yeah. So these are like all these different things that Batman specifically has, right? He's got a cape. I mean, just put mask first. He's got a mask and he's got a cape and he's got a belt, right? So these are specific to Batman, right? Now let's define David as it. So let me bring our friend David here. All right, so David also has a bunch of things, right? So let's create a class for David, because we need a class, right? Only when we have a class we can actually create an object of that said class. So this is David, and so he also has stuffing material, obviously, like it could be wool or cotton, whatever. And then he's got a skin, cloth, textured material, perfect. And then now he doesn't have a mask, right? So what does he has? He has what does he have? He has hair, right? So he's got hair color. So that's hair color. And he also, so we can even maybe have some kind of an integer to define the number of hairs he has, number of hairs, because somebody has to stitch these number of hairs, right? Each strand of hair is like a cloth material, it's braided and all. So that's a property. So he's got number of hairs, he's got a hair color, and and he's got a pant, like a pant color, pant material, pant color. So we can have that as well. So these are all specific to David. So we'll just say string, this is pant color, and then we can have we don't need cape because he doesn't have a cape, and then in addition to that he has got shirt, right? He's got a shirt color because he's got a nice textured shirt. Yeah, so cool. So yeah, these are the properties that are specific to David. Now the thing is, if you look at these two classes right now, you can see that Batman class and David class, they have certain things that are being repeated, right? So these are properties specific to a stuffed doll, and that's what makes a stuffed doll having some stuffing material and skin, cloth, texture material. Now those two properties, we are defining them in both the Batman class and also in David's class, right? So is there a way to not do that, right? And also we know that Batman is a stuffed doll, right? And David is a stuffed doll. So if we have a way to somehow establish that relationship, saying that Batman is a stuffed doll, so that means Batman should have the properties of stuffing material and skin, cloth, textured material, right? So if at all we have that feature, it'll be really cool, right? So that's what engineers before us, software engineers before us, figured, and they have created. So C++ has this cool feature called inheritance, which enable us to establish that relationship. So the way we do that is so after you say class Batman, you just need to say put a colon and then say public. Okay, we'll get into what this public, private, and protected mean over here in this context, in a later session. But for now, we'll just put public, and then mention the class which is the parent class to this particular class. Okay, so in this case, for Batman, our parent class is the stuffed doll, right? So when you do this, right, you don't need to mention stuffed material anymore. Okay, and one other thing we would need to do is basically we need to set up the access modifiers, right? So by default in a class, all the properties that you define are private. Okay, so that means they will be available only in this class level. They won't become available when you create an instance. You can't access these properties directly, and also they won't be available in the inherited class as well, right? So we need to set these set up the access modifier to be public, so that these properties become available in the inherited classes as well. Okay, so that's something that we need to keep in mind. So we'll just set all the access modifiers to be public. Okay, so we did touch upon this public and private in a previous video. So yeah, if you can check this out, check it out, to refresh about it. But yeah, like, so we'll just set this all these things to be public for now. Yeah, cool. So now what's going to happen is, so since we are setting this stuffed doll to be the parent of Batman, right? So now Batman has a relationship with stuffed doll. That means Batman is a stuffed doll, right? So that means we don't need to like mention we don't need to have redefine like these two properties anymore, like stuffing material and skin cloth textured material anymore, because they would be inherited from the stuffed doll class. Okay, that's pretty cool, and we'll actually see that in action now. Okay, so like David will just David again, he can also inherit, right? So we'll just say we'll just inherit public stuffed doll. So this guy is again a stuffed doll, right? So this is a stuffed doll. Cool. So David again doesn't need to redefine, right? He doesn't need to do the same thing. He also doesn't need to redefine the stuffing material and the skin cloth texture material properties for David, because David again is a stuffed doll, right? Just like Batman's a stuffed doll. All right. So what, just to recap what we have done till now. We're not yet executed or built the code, but just to see what we have done till now in the bird's eye view, we can see that we have created a class called stuffed doll, right? And in that we have defined what a stuffed doll means, right? What it means to be a stuffed doll. It means that you need to have stuffing material and you need to have some kind of a skin cloth textured material. Only if you have these two properties, then only then only you're a stuffed doll, right? And then what we have done is we have just basically created the things, defined the properties unique to Batman inside of the Batman class, and things that are unique to David inside of David's class, right? So then since Batman is a stuffed doll and David is a stuffed doll, we just are inheriting stuffed doll into Batman instead of redefining those properties into each of these classes, right? So that's what we have done. So because we have done this, because we have used this syntax saying that Batman is a stuffed doll. Batman is a child of stuffed doll. Just like David is a child of stuffed doll. That is, stuffed doll is the parent of David. Right? So works both ways, right? So since we have defined this, now what we can do is we can actually create an instance. Let's create an instance of Batman and see what happens. Okay. So if we come here and let's just create an instance of Batman, saying Batman. So the Batman that we with capital B is the type, is the class name, and then it's a small b is it's instance, right? So now an instance of Batman has been created, right? Now since we have inherited from stuffed doll, when we say Batman and when we say use the dot operator, you can see that yes, belt cloth textured material is there because that is specific to Batman. He has a belt thing, and then he's got a cape, yeah, yes, and then he's got a mask, yeah, we define this, and in addition to this, he's got a skin cloth textured material and stuffing material, which are coming from the parent, right? Which are coming from the stuffed doll, class, right? So this is where it is, right? So you can see that when we say dot, you have all these properties available to you now. So you can actually define the stuffing material. Maybe you can set it to be cotton, and you can set Batman's other properties, which are the cloth textured material, to be maybe Batman costume. Yeah, so we'll just call skin cloth texture material to be Batman costume. All right, and then we have what are the then things. So these two things are specific to that stuffed doll, right? And then we these two things are coming from the stuffed doll class, right? And then we also have the Batman specific things, which are, you can see that Batman dot, yeah, we need to have semicolon here, Batman dot, we have a cape color, we know it's black, and Batman's mask color is again black. I am Batman. And then Batman dot belt cloth texture material, yellow belt, yeah. Yeah, so we can define these things. Okay, now you have an object that has, like, basically it's this, right? So all the properties of this Batman, you have now defined this class which holds the properties, and you can create how many ever instances of Batman you want, right? And you can create a digital toy shop. So yeah, so basically that's what a Batman is. And similarly, like, so for David as well, like, well, let's just say we have just created an instance of David, and David again will have dot, see, stuffing material. So maybe this guy has got wool as his stuffing material, and all his properties basically dot David costume, David dot pant color brown, and David's shirt color orange, and then David's number of hairs. How many hairs does he have? Maybe like 500. Yeah, 500. See, this is an integer, right? So it's 500, and then David's hair color equal to, again, it's brown. Yeah, so basically, like, this is how you, yeah, obviously you can have a constructor, and you define all these things in a constructor, and that will construct all these properties for you, but that will initialize all these properties for you. But like, you get the point, right? So here you can see that by means of making Batman a child of stuffed doll, you got these two properties for free, right? You got them, you inherited those properties from your parent. If we didn't do that, right, if we, like, let's say if I remove this, right, if we remove this particular syntax, what's going to happen now is Batman won't have access to stuffed material and skin, cloth, textured material anymore, because Batman is no longer a stuffed doll, right? So that's what it means to say you're inheriting from a particular class. It means that you're becoming a child of that class, thereby you're becoming that class. That's what is a relationship. So that this is what an inheritance is. It helps us to establish this is a relationship, which is saying that this particular class, which is a Batman class or whatever class, is now going to be a child of a stuffed doll. So all the things, it's not just the like these variables, even functions and whatever that is present in the parent class become available in the child class. As a matter of fact, let's just create a quick function here. We'll just call it we'll just create a function saying what am I. We'll have a function called what am I, and that function will say, it'll print out saying I am a stuffed doll. All right, so since we did this, so we have created a function where in the stuffed doll class, right, we just implemented it only once. Now what's going to happen here is this function is going to become available for both Batman and also for David, because both of them are inheriting from stuffed doll, right? So see, stuffed doll, this function is only present, this method is basically only present inside of this stuffed doll class, but since you're inheriting, right, so that functionality also becomes available for you in both Batman and David. So we'll just quickly do that as well. So here in addition to all of this, we can just say Batman dot see what am I. So you have that, and David also, for David also we'll do the same thing. And if you run this, execute and run this code now, you can see that it'll say what am I. It'll say I am a stuffed doll. We'll do that right now. Okay, so we'll just say, and before that we'll just need to also print out all these things, right? So we'll just say cool. I just quickly wrote a bunch of cout statements to print out the Batman properties and the David properties, right? So let's just compile this code and run it and see it in action. Okay, see these inheritance in action. Okay, so let me just compile and run this code. So yes, we can see all the properties of Batman and David getting printed out, and we know that these two properties, the stuffing material and the skin material, are actually coming from the stuffing class. Same thing for David as well, and also this functionality which is saying what am I, I'm a stuffed doll, right? So that is also coming from the parent class, the stuffed doll class. But then these properties, which is basically the the unique properties, are also getting printed. They are also available, and we are able to print them out as well. Like for David, pant, shirt, and number of hairs and hair color. Whereas for Batman, the mask color, cape color, and the belt color. So this is cool. This is really powerful, and we can establish this really cool is a relationships with inheritance. So yes, hope this video on inheritance in C++ was useful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in another video. Cheers!